Ignorance and Learning Disabilities. Up next on Fringianity. What is your opinion of the world today? And what does this Bible have to say? Fringianity. Welcome to the show. Now, before I start the show, I just want to point out a few things. This show is a show that talks about fringe topics with a Christian point of view. So if that offends you, please turn it off now, and you don't have to be offended. Okay, so I wanted to start off this episode by reading something. What you're going to hear is the edited version because I don't usually read out loud to anybody, so it's nothing to do with you. It's just something that I have trouble with. I just wanted to get that out there because this is an episode that deals with learning disabilities. And you'll understand more in a bit. I'm just going to read something I wrote. I actually posted this on Facebook because it had something to do with a job I recently did not get. I actually had the job, but I backed out of the job because of the fact that what I was going to have to deal with in the training to get to do the job was just going to be something of a nightmare for me. Here, I'll just read it. All my life I have struggled in a classroom setting because I don't learn the same as everyone else. I'm sick of the fast-paced, quickly repeated setting. I've been talked down to and treated like a 2-year-old just because the teaching method of one-size-fits-all don't work for me. I can't believe people still play school in classrooms for jobs. I recently had to turn down a job because I can't train and read out loud like the rest of the parrots. I realize for most people that means something is wrong with me, but I'd rather not take it and be made to look like a fool in front of a classroom of one-size-fits-all parrots that all learn the same way like a bunch of clones. I'm a hands-on learner who can think for himself. Sadly, critical thinkers are not treated fairly in this repeat what you hear parrot society. Just something that I thought I'd share, just in case there are more of us out there who struggle and get treated like a child because we are not parrots. We are not dumb, we just are not clones. Don't be a parrot. Think for yourself. Today's classrooms are places where indoctrination is repeated over and over till everyone believes it. Those who learn differently or question anything they learn are not accepted and alienated and don't fit in. Okay, I wrote that because I was really affected recently, this like a week or so ago. Basically, I had an interview. I got the job. Everything was great, okay? And then they told me, I have to take this class or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. No big deal, whatever. And then she says, well, you have to be okay with reading out loud in the classroom and taking some fast tests and all kinds of fast-paced, basically learning stuff. And that did not go well with me because I'm not, I understand there's a lot of jobs where you got to move fast-paced and all that stuff. But I'm not very fast-paced at understanding what I read sometimes, or understanding what somebody is telling me or talking about when they're just quickly skimming over the pages of a book and just throwing it out to you, and everyone gets it in the classroom. And this happens basically when I was a kid. I have kind of a mental state that goes on in my head. I realize I'm opening up to everyone here, but there's a reason I'm doing this, okay? You'll understand by the end of the show. I have a point, okay? But I have a small, panic attack, basically, every time I know that I have to read in front of a classroom or in front of a bunch of people, or I have to, do the things that I had to do in high school or when I was younger. And yeah, it's not their fault really. It's my fault because I was picked on in school. So I have almost like a phobia kind of thing. I don't know what you call it. Whatever. So I'm not trying to make this about me. I hate saying this. I'm only doing this because I believe that there are other people out there that might need, somebody to say something about learning disabilities because it's just not talked about. It's just something that nobody talks about. So if I look like the fool here in front of all of the people who listen to this show, hopefully you're all Christians, so you shouldn't be making me look like a fool. But my point is the reason for this is the fringianity has always been my goal with this whole podcast has always been to be about talking about the thing that nobody really talks about. Yeah, there's fringe topics like hollow earth and whatever that I'll talk about. And yeah, a lot that's kind of become more popular, okay, and stuff like that. But it's really hard for me to come up with episodes sometimes because I try not to do what other people have done or are doing. I try to talk about the things that nobody else is talking about, not because it's the most unpopular thing, but because it might help somebody out there in the world and it might benefit them, even if it makes me look like I'm a stupid fool because I don't know how to read properly or I can read, but it's just different how I learn and it's different how I read. So my point is there's people out there who are dealing with these things on a day-to-day basis. And in schools, there are plenty of people that deal with these things. There's like 5%, I guess 5%, I don't know if this is an up-to-date statistic, but 5% of people in America have a learning disability. Maybe it's 10%, 5 or 10. It's somewhere in there. I just remember I just was reading through something. Yes, I do read. And they mentioned that it was 5, I think it was 5, 10, I don't know. For some reason, 10 keeps coming to mind. Anyway, 5 to 10% of people in America have a learning disability. But they try to hide it because they're scared that they're going to look like a fool. Okay? And that's a sort of pride. Pride's not a good thing. But my point is it's hard to, if you're dealing with something that's you can't deal with, you look like a fool anyway when people don't know that you have a disability or you have a learning disability and you end up doing something that you're not in your comfort zone. When you're out of your comfort zone, and when you have a learning disability, it's not like, just like, just conquer your fear. No, it's not conquering your fear because you don't understand how to conquer it, because you haven't figured out how to learn certain things. So if you can't learn certain things, it's like banging your head against a brick wall over and over again in front of everyone, and they're just going, I don't understand why he keeps banging his head. It's because he can't do the things that they can do because he can't understand the way they can understand it. And I used that whole thing that I wrote, and it actually came out pretty good the way I wrote it. I can't believe it came out that good. But about parrots, because what do parrots do? The bird parrots, what do? They repeat what they hear. They just keep repeating what they hear. They don't actually think for themselves. They just repeat the thing that they hear. And it sounds all cute and funny when a bird, a parrot's doing that. But my point is, there's a lot of adult humans that are doing that too. In fact, I would say most of these colleges, the teachers have been given orders to basically indoctrinate people to become parrots, so that they basically just repeat what the teacher says. They basically know the right answers, because the teacher makes sure that they know that these are the answers that are acceptable in society. And you have to pick from these right answers that we accept in our society, in our politically correct society, and you have to give these words or these answers in a certain way, and we'll pass you, and you'll go on to be, this person, that person. You'll be a high society person. You'll be able to move on up, But if you're a person like me, who has struggles with learning disability, I don't struggle with it day to day. Like, I'm not constantly going, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. No, it's not about that. My point is I can't do certain things. And I understand that someone out there is going to be saying, well, you shouldn't be telling yourself you can't do it, because the more you say you can't do it, the more you won't do it. It's not like, it's not something that a pep talk is going to get you through, okay? You don't have to have a cheerleader that'll make you learn faster, okay? It's more or less, you got to kind of know how to get around the disability, if you know what I mean. It's like, I know how to use Photoshop. A regular person doesn't know how to use Photoshop, but I do, just say. So I know all of the little tricks to do something, and then they go on there and they try to do it, and they don't understand all the little tricks. So I'm on the in, and they're on the out, But there's only a couple things I have to show them that will get them to kind of start to understand. But if they don't understand, like, the trick keys on the keyboard, they're not going to be able to just, edit something and just do it quickly. It'll be slower. And that's probably a terrible analogy, but my point is it's really hard for me to explain this to regular people. And I'm not trying to make, like I said, I feel like I am making myself the story here. But I really am not doing this to tell my story. My point is there's people in this world that are dealing with this in a real world basis, and they're having phobias and all these things, and they're having panic attacks, and they're having stress and depression. Some people even kill themselves because of learning disability. So it becomes a very big deal. There are people who committed suicide because of a learning disability. That's a big deal. I know people don't think that happens, but I'm sorry to tell you, but that does happen. There are kids in schools all across America that are being taught Common Core, and it's one size fits all. And it's all about how you feel. And if the answer's, flip-floppy and there's no right answer, the kid doesn't, it's like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4. We know that that's a physical fact, okay? But, in Common Core or whatever, these people are, told, well, how does, it might equal 5, according to how you feel. And that's just, but I'm not talking about all the Common Core. My point, I'm going off on a rabbit trail, but my point is people are struggling in this world because of the way that the system has been set up. It's been set up to where it's a person like myself might struggle to get ahead in life because he doesn't learn with a cookie cutter stamping process. Oh, this is the shape, we keep doing this all day long, this is how we learn, this is the same thing every day, in and out, keep stamping the cookies, and that's pretty much what it's like. So I only used the reason why this all is even come up and it made me think to do a podcast about it is because of this thing with this job that I had recently. It really it just made me not feel. I had all those feelings come back that I had when I was in high school, when I was getting picked on and bullied because I was the stupid kid, because I didn't learn like everybody else. And those are the words that they used, okay? So I'm not trying to, have this mean, dark, negative attitude. I'm dealing with life, okay? And I'm trying to tell other people that, that yes, there's big things going on in the world that's going wrong. All these terrible things are happening. But there's also little things that are going on that do make people commit suicide and do make people depressed and deal with all these, terrible things too. And I'm not saying that, that's overweighing the big problems in society. I'm just saying that when you deal with people who just sit in a classroom all day and then they're just checking the box all day long. Oh yeah, what's next? And they just, get passed right along. They go and get the jobs. They get all the wonderful things and all this stuff. Well, those people, I have trouble believing that some of those people, some of them can be really nice people, but I've met some of them that are really not nice because they're just life's so easy for them. But I've known people that have gone to college for like 8 years. They came out with all these high degrees, and guess what? They didn't know how to change a tire on the car. They didn't know how to change oil in a car. In fact, they didn't know how to put oil in the car, which is ridiculous. And they've never pumped gas. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You can be, have the most knowledge in the world. That doesn't make you wise. Knowledge does not give you wisdom. And my point of all this is, I think people out there are really, they don't realize how lucky they have it. They don't realize that, they're just going to go, they got to take this class for their work or whatever, and they're just going to buzz right through that, and then they're going to go back to work, But there's going to be somebody, not a high percentage rate of people, but there's going to be somebody who's actually going to that same test the same day with the people at that job, and it's probably having a panic attack because whether everyone else knows it or not, that person has a learning disability. And they're afraid that they're going to have to read in front of the class. They're going to have to basically try to act like the rest of the people. What they know they're not going to learn, they don't learn like that. And that's not their fault. That's actually the teacher's fault, as far as I'm concerned. I actually blame the teachers because the teachers don't. They teach to, the masses. They don't teach to the few, So if one person's not picking it up, he's just, he's got ADHD, he's just this, that, and the other thing. Let's get him on medication and just let's get him out of here, Because that's what happens. Kids get put on medication at a young age because, they're having a learning disability. They don't fit in. So they got some kind of sickness or disease or something when it's not that. They just don't learn like everyone else, And I realize I'm just blabbering now, but in the Bible, let's, because this is a Christian show. In the Bible, we deal with consistent, and I mean consistent. Every single story just about in the Bible has an imperfect person, imperfect man most of the time. And that person is usually has all kinds of issues. In fact, they're afraid to work with God in some occasions because of their issues. Okay, Moses had a speech issue. I mean, he literally had a speech issue. That was slowing him down, basically. Of course, the Lord, he can speak through you. You can just be stuttering all day long. And then the second that you get in front of an audience, the Lord you can just suddenly speak, and it's just smooth, and you're perfect. You say it just like the most educated person in the room. So the thing is the Lord uses people who are not the high-class people. I mean, look, the Sadducees and Pharisees, they were looking for a prestigious, good-looking, rich man for Jesus instead of actually who Jesus was. They're looking for the wrong person because they were into the world, and they were seeking somebody who's living worldly to be, the king. And then when Jesus come riding in on a donkey, well, we can't call that man God, because look, he just came in on a donkey in front of everyone. That's foolish. So basically, God makes foolishness a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful gift. He can turn something that's not a blessing, as far as we think, into the greatest gift ever. And I'm saying that to myself right now. I'm not really saying that to you. Honestly, I'm talking to myself when I say that, because I struggle myself with that whole thing. Because of this learning disability, I have confidence problems. I mean, it sounds like when I do this show, I feel like I sound mean sometimes, or angry sometimes, or whatever. It's just because I'm trying to be straightforward, and I'm not talking to another person, so I'm not as compassionate when I'm talking to a stupid microphone, as when I am talking to a person. And I'm sorry if I come off sometimes as being, kind of rude or straightforward, or just, uncaring, I guess. And I come off that way sometimes to my wife even. So trust me, it's not like whoever listens to this show is the first person to think that. So, but my point is my heart is in the right spot, okay? I'm not the best at being being the perfect human. And the point of all of this is, God made people imperfect, or I shouldn't say he made them. We are imperfect because of sin. And so he didn't really make us that way. But my point is he takes imperfect people and makes them into the thing that is closer to perfection. We'll never be perfect. But if he has taken you and he started to walk with you, that means he's going to stick around and finish the job, And that's just that alone is what kind of keeps me on the straight path, or the trying to stay on the path anyway, because I'm not perfect, okay? But that's kind of what pushes me back onto that road, that straight path, every time I get down about this learning disability stuff, or something like this job. It really took the wind out of my sail when I was so happy because I passed it, I got through this interview because I could talk to the people, and I was just real. I was just telling them, hey, I've done this before. I've done this in the past, and here's how I dealt with it. It was really easy to talk to them. But then when it came to this whole classroom stuff, and I'm not good at that. And maybe I shouldn't have backed out of the job. I don't know. Nobody's perfect. Nobody makes the right decision all the time. But from what my wife told me, because she once was doing this job, so she knows, so I had somebody on the in that had experience at it. She don't work there now, but she did work there at one point. And she said that I would probably struggle in that, and they would probably make me look like a fool there because of how the teacher of that class and the people of the classroom generally act toward the tests. They basically you're given like 15 minutes to take the test, and they're just like, oh, I'm done, right away, and everyone's rushing. And what will happen is I'll be there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because I'm reading and trying to take in the question that's on the test. And I realize this makes me sound stupid. I don't care what you people think. I'm just doing this because there are people out there that need to hear other people who are dealing with this. So I'm just being straightforward and honest about what I think and what I deal with when I take tests and I have to do things that are, in a classroom setting, I guess. But people, it's really hard to focus when you're trying to read, the question and understand it to give the right answer. When you know that behind you there's like 3 to 5, different students, 10 people, whatever, that are just check. They check the boxes. Oh, we're done. And they just flip the test up and you're like, what's now? And then you see the teacher just kind of like, well, we have to wait. And then you hear the crickets, and you got that going at the same time as you're trying to do your best. You are really trying, but your trying is in a different speed than everyone else. So now you're slowing everyone down, and now you become the weight, that's dragging everyone down, and we're never going to get out of here. We were hoping to be able to leave after, a certain time because we can leave early once we finish everything. That type of thing. And this is what adults are dealing with. That's what I dealt with exactly when I was in high school. You see what I'm saying? So we're all grown-ups now, and we're still dealing with the same cookie-cutter system that does the same exact thing. That's the only way. It's just the only way. And if you tell somebody, you literally just tell somebody, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have a learning disability. Oh, yeah, that's fine. They'll probably be understanding. They'll probably be right there saying, oh, well, I'm sorry. We'll just take you aside and now you became the child. You just look like a fool in the classroom. And now you look, you don't fit in at all now. And yes, they're trying to be kind to you. I understand they're actually trying to be, respectful of that. But then it's kind of weird because at that point, this is what happened to me. They start talking like this to you and saying, okay, well, now we're going to try to do this. And now they're talking to you like you are in kindergarten. That is what drives me nuts. My head just wants to pop off at that point when that starts, because I've had that my whole life. I know that system so well because I've dealt with it so many times in my life. And when they talk like that, I don't know what they're thinking, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you're just mocking me now. You're making me sound like I'm a dumb idiot. I mean, like I'm just this ignorant fool who knows nothing. Because usually, because you're an adult and they start talking to you like that. And that's ridiculous. Even mentally handicapped people don't need to be talked to like that. I know. I used to take care of mentally handicapped people. I could talk to them just like my brother or my, sister or my mother, I could just talk straight to them. And the way I talked, they would understand. They're not stupid. Mentally handicapped people, I actually understand them because of this learning disability. Not because I'm mentally handicapped, but because they're talked down to all day long. And so was I when I was in high school. It's not enough that I had bullies, pushing me and throwing my books on the ground and saying, oh, whatever, you're just this stupid kid or whatever, talking down to you. It's not enough that I had that. It's when I went to a classroom, now I had to go into a different room and have a single teacher or a teacher's assistant to sit beside me and talk to me like I'm a child, reading me these questions or whatever, and not letting me read it, because I'm reading too slow. So we have to keep up with the pace even. Even at that level, I have to still have someone read it to me because they don't want me to read it because I'm too slow. And they know that. You see what I'm saying? And it's a little embarrassing, honestly, for me to talk about this. But thank God there's nobody here when I'm talking. So that's what makes it easier. And the other part that makes this easier is because I just had when this whole thing happened, I just thought, I should really look into learning disabilities now as an adult. I haven't looked into them for so many years. And I did some research on YouTube and started looking up learning disabilities and what people are dealing with now in this generation, And like I said at the beginning, I started learning about how people have committed suicide. I mean, girls cut themselves. I mean, just the worst, that people become drug addicts because of a learning disability. They become lowlifes. They become drunks. They become all these, meth addicts because of a learning disability. Because it all starts with that learning disability. Because of the school will not address it properly, they put you on medication, which happens to a lot of young kids nowadays because of learning disabilities. So that's something I felt strong about once I actually watched a few of these different videos and basically these different people talking about, the effects of a learning disability. It's not just a small little thing, okay? It becomes a big thing for a lot of people because, okay, the girl that committed suicide, now her mom and dad feel guilty because she committed suicide because they felt like they should have done more for her, okay? Or the boy who's now a drug addict because he gave up because he was treated so stupid by the teachers and picked on in school. So he gave in to the peer pressures of drugs and all that stuff. And now he's not going to be in college. He went to jail. And you see what I'm saying? You see how the rock starts to roll down the hill, and as it goes down further, it starts to pick up speed and take out more people with it. That's why I'm even talking about this. It's the point of don't be a parrot. You don't have to fit in to a classroom to be a good enough person. Like I said, God chose 90% of the Bible is written by people who struggled with things that, Saul, I always use Saul. Saul was a killer of Christians. Saul was a killer. He was no different than basically ISIS, chopping the heads off of Christians. Okay? The disciples were afraid of him. And then he found Jesus, and he turned 180 degrees around. He became Paul. I think that he was such a bad person. He had such a bad name as Saul that I think that Jesus wanted him to change his name because of that. And basically, that's kind of how I take it anyway. But it's very interesting that, he could turn his life around. And there's been other people. People who have, cheated on their wives in the Bible, and they've turned their, all kinds of just things like that. And I don't remember exactly, but I think even Jonah had a learning disability. And all these, and also Moses and Jonah had a short temper, a very short temper. They're very angry people. And I've been told, because I was angry, that I'm going to go to hell. But you realize Moses was so angry that he broke the 10 Commandments. He's the first one to break the commandments, literally. He broke them. So, think about that. And these people were used by God. These people were able to be used. He was able to use them, even though they had issues. Even though the speech issues, they're not able to talk in front of a crowd of people, this, that, and the other thing. Let's see. Moses, the humblest man on the face of the earth, had a very serious problem with his temper. Yeah. So that's something I'm reading here. But yeah, it's just these people were not perfect, and yet they still went on to be great people. And just separate from the Bible even. Einstein was treated like crap in school because he was not learning the way that the world wanted him to learn. Isn't that interesting? Einstein, the guy who's everybody looks to see, science pretty much looks to Einstein. He's like the most popular guy in science. And this guy was, quote unquote, diagnosed with a learning disability because he wasn't learning the way that the other students were. See, that's just a bunch of crap. You can't let schools turn you into a parrot so that you just basically feel like you have to fit in, okay? And for sure, being a Christian, we're not supposed to fit in. That's literally what we're supposed to not do. We're not supposed to be of the world. Our kingdom is not of the world, okay? So that's our job, is not to fit in, okay? We're supposed to be telling the truth. We're supposed to speak in a way that brings joy to Jesus, basically, and glory to him. So we have to try to be as close to him as we can be. So we have to be preaching, which basically have to model ourselves to be like Christ as much as we can. And that's just these are just some things that I don't know. I'm rambling here. But this stuff, for some reason, it's been on my mind and my heart, and I'm trying to let it go, so it's kind of like I'm just kind of venting almost, but I'm not really venting. I'm just trying to speak to someone. I don't know if there's anyone that listens to this show that's even got a disability learning or what they can get out of this. I just felt it was something worth talking about because I know how it is to be the alienated person, the person who was, I look at myself, as just looking at myself on a day-to-day basis, and I don't really like myself in a lot of ways either. I mean, I look at myself and I'm like, oh, your eyes are always dark, you got lines under your eyes, you look like you never get sleep, and, I'm not, I look at myself, and this is just some things that some people do, I'm just being open about it. Sometimes I don't like the fact that I look like my father, or I sometimes act like my father. I'm sure nobody likes to, be like their mother or their father. Sometimes they want to be their own person, but sometimes I fall into that. I'm just like my dad, and some of those things that he does is not good. I don't believe that some of the things he does is a very Christian thing either. But I fall into those traits sometimes, and it makes me mad. But I still believe in Christ, and I still believe that I have to just pick up and move on. No matter how much the world tries to kick me and shove me and call me names or tell me I'm not smart or I'm just not, I'm not gonna fit in. And, also you could also kind of go down a road where, conspiracy here, because a lot of the people in schools nowadays are being taught, the transgender sexual stuff. They're literally becoming parrots for that. And at a young age, so that when they get older, you tell them that Jesus Christ said that that's sin, and now they want to kill you and beat you over the head and say, "Oh my God, you're a bigot, and you're just a terrible person. How could you say that?" Because I could say that, but you don't understand, because you were indoctrinated your whole life in a school. You were taught that this is the way that this is what the world wants to accept. And Jesus, what did he do? He said sin for sin. He told people straight up, pick up your cross and come with me now. Don't turn back. And that was a hard thing to say because those people had things that they wanted to go back and wrap up before they left and picked up their cross. That's a hard thing to say. You see? But Jesus spoke the truth, and people did not like to hear it. That's the reason why they wanted to crucify him. They wanted to shut him up because he was getting too much power, because the truth, at the end of the day, will set you free. And a lot of people were becoming free because of Jesus was setting them free. And if he would have been able to stay in the world for long enough, I think that there'd be so many people free that the elites of this world and Satan, who runs the world, would be in danger because of the truth that Jesus spoke. So that's a very important thing. I mean, and he was not popular. He was not the man that, that they wanted him to be. They wanted him to be a wonderful, beautiful, rich man that spoke to the high class and didn't speak to the low class. And, but he wasn't. He spoke to the low class and to the sinners because he wanted to save the sinners, to get them saved. He sat with sinners and he sat with the worst people because he knew that those are the people who needed him most. Just like the people who struggle in life. Those are the people that need Jesus most. Not the people who have everything and they don't even know how lucky they are. The people at the very bottom who are struggling every single day and dealing with, just the grind of just trying to, succeed and trying to live in this world. Those are the people who Jesus wants to help the most, I believe, because the rich and the upper class, they don't even need him because they just buy whatever they want. So, I mean, they need him, but they need him they're not going to come to him the way that the meek would. So I don't know, that's the message I have. I don't know what else, I don't know if this is going to reach anyone or this even has any meaning to anyone. It just sounds like a bunch of rambling to me, but I just decided I'd just open up and just straight up say it like it is. My point of this is, don't be a parrot. Don't try to, fit in a world that is not going to benefit. You're not going to benefit from what the world is selling anyway. It's better to just fit in with Christ and not fit in with the world. And I don't know, that's kind of the message for this week. And I don't know what else to say, so that's about it. And thank you for listening.
If you like this show, you can also find us under Leo Rutledge on YouTube. That's all capital letters, Leo Rutledge on YouTube. Shows like this in audio will be up on the YouTube channel, as well as video shows where I talk about other stuff as well. So check out Fringianity on YouTube under Leo Rutledge. Also, please check out the Fringianity Underground podcast Facebook group for show posts and Fringianity YouTube show posts as well. Also check out the Bible Underground. The Bible Underground is a electronic truther Christian / rock band music project that I'm working on. I'd really like your support. So if you enjoy my show, please support my music. I'm on Amazon, iTunes, wherever you download your music. And there's also a Facebook page and a YouTube channel devoted to the Bible Underground. So please check them out. So if you've listened through all of that, I want to say thank you for putting up with me. And thank you for listening to the show. And thank you for showing your support. God bless.